Hi there folks, I thought I'd better drop in and say hi to you. It's been a while since I've posted out on YouTube. Basically, I was on a bit of a journey and obviously COVID stopped me travelling around, so I've been living here outside at the place I live, cracking on with different crafts. I also have some exciting news. I've got an earth lodge in progress down on an estate, Euston Estate Farms in Suffolk, that's in the UK, and life's going pretty good. Anyway, we'll crack on talking about such things during the production of making a flint tipped arrowhead, which is going on a shaft, and then that's going off to America. So it's one arrow that's going on a bit of a journey. So to do that, let's bring this whole camera down a bit, look, down to here. I think that's about a good enough angle for what we're going to do. Slap a little leg pad on. Thing is, I make a lot of footage, and I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook, and you never really know where your followers are from. Some probably might only watch me here, and some might know about all three platforms. But anyway, here we have a nice piece of flint, and I need to get into it, find out what's going on in there to start off with. I'll just break that open. I was kind of hoping for it to be jet black, but it's not too bad all the same. Now it's this point here that I'm interested in. What I'm going to do is try and set an angle up here and then get a flake off of there and create the arrowhead out of that. So I use a slightly smaller and slightly more pointed stone here. Come around that side, take that off, and get that bit out of the way as well. And then we're creeping up a little bit closer to the back of that and hit it on the top. That's a bit messy in there at the moment, look. So we'll take a few more swipes. And now, if you see that, it's fairly thin, but it's right at the back there. With a stone that's slightly more abrasive, like this one, we'll start sanding that, tilting it downwards, look, and strengthen that little bit of area up. People often ask why you do this. It's called abrading, but it's going to take a fair old whack in a second, and it needs to be strong enough to be able to hold itself together. So, said deer antler, red deer antler hammer, holding it tightly on the side of the leg, slightly off to one side there. Yeah, and that's your luck, that collapsed. Anyway, let's go back in there, see if we can get it off. Now back to the drawing board on that one. So sometimes it's better just to call it when it goes wrong and then start again. Incidentally, I have another piece of flint here, and this could be doing all sorts of things. Let me show you. But it looks nice and black. Let's see what we've got in here. Well, it's got me bleeding. I was alright when I first started the video. Now I'm bleeding. And that ain't up to much, is it? Nah. That's just knackered, right? So back to this one. Let's move around a bit, try and create new options. Hey. Okay. Let's get a plaster on that and then we'll crack on. Good, I'm no longer bleeding. Anyway, see if we can make something go right, shall we? Let's have a look down here. Okay, this looks pretty good. We've got a sort of oval shape going on. Easiest place to construct a platform would be at the back. And it's quite a nice black piece of flint as well. Be better if you can see what I'm doing, wouldn't it? So, for this one, not a lot of coronet left on that. All right. So we got a flake, although we plunged down at the back, so really that needs wiping away. And let's try and do that. All right. Just thin out that lump. And then we've got something we can actually work with. So hopefully, pretty soon, we start breaking out of what we know as a lockdown. We can start moving about again. So we can work with this now. For those of you that don't know me, I kind of assume when I do a film that people know me and they know what's going on in my life. But if you're new to the channel and you don't know much about what I do prehistoric skills, and I go to some prehistoric places, and I like to challenge myself. I like to go and hang out and spend time in caves and all sorts of stuff like that, and basically go on a bit of adventure. To do the adventure, in the garage around there I've got a great big freewheel Harley Davidson trike, which makes the whole adventure a lot more fun. And looking forward to getting back on that and taking you off and showing you some pretty cool stuff. Anyway, in the first place, dealing with this, we're going to use a technique known as pressure flaking. For no particular reason at all, I'm going to make this the point. So we just draw on here what we're planning to make. Shoddy camera work today. We're going to make this into a triangle. Regular triangle, look. And then in the back, what we're going to do is we're going to notch it out. And then what we're going to do is slap that on a shaft. So it's done in the hand. This is a pressure flaker. It's got a copper tip in it because when they were making barbed and tanged arrowheads, it was about 4,000 to 3,500 years ago, and they'd already got copper, and for notching they used to love using the copper because it was a little bit more robust than the actual just an antler tine. Although you can do this with an antler tine, but notching is difficult. So we'll set off. All I'm doing to start off with is we're reducing it and getting into the thickness of the flake as well, because it's a bit thin and sharp around the edges. You can't really push any flakes off from that. and you set up what's known as a platform, which is this bit here. You can see the tilt on that. And then what we do is we braid that. Let's make it strong again. Now the difficult bit comes. We've got to turn it over and we've got to try and push some meaty, decent sized flakes off. And they're heading out over the surface there. And what that does is it thins the whole thing out. And if you've got any bends in the flake from when it was cast off the lump, you can use this technique to straighten it all out. And sometimes I just make that wet so you can actually see. You can see the flakes are actually reaching out. And that, not only does it thin it, actually gives it a very, very cool look about it. And in that particular point in time in the Bronze Age, there was a lot of trade associated to skill sets going on. And flint knapping had arrived at a point in time where very, very smart daggers were being made. A lot of refinement in craft. And sometimes these things were also buried with important people. So I sent the flakes off, then I went down the edge again and I put a brand new platform in it. So back to braiding that. Then we flick it over again and we begin to return the flakes off the opposite side. While I'm doing this, might as well keep telling you about a few things. So the adventures have got a bit of a prehistoric theme with them, and if you wanted to, you can look back and you'll see find a playlist called Will's Prehistoric Adventure, and on that what you'll find is you'll see me visiting a different bunch of mines, places, and showing you some of the skills that were used at them places. And that's only a journey that I'd only just started before COVID came in and put brakes on everything. So if I can't go far, I'll probably start going north to start off with. Head up into Scotland and have a look at some of the stone circles and chambers up there. That'd be pretty cool. But where I want to get sometime soon is over to Italy, into the border of Austria. And I'd like to do it this summer and go and visit Otzi the Iceman, the guy who was found being released from the ice, and he was 5,000 years old, and he had a flint tipped arrow stuck in his shoulder, so we now know it as a murder scene. And but I think it's going to be interesting not only to go to the museum that he's in, but actually go to the very place where he was discovered and have a browse about of the landscape there and try and come up with some thinking of my own, like looking at the just looking at the landscape and trying to ask myself a variety of simple questions, like where did he come from? Now you could say on the surface of it that'd be impossible to say, and you'd be right, because you can't tell where he was come from or where he was going. But what you could say is that if you're being pursued by people and they're hunting you with bows and arrows and stuff, he would have probably set off from somewhere where people were living, and I wouldn't imagine that that was desperately too far from where he ended up. And I think from a primitive or ancient perspective, when you look at a piece of landscape, if it was me anyway and I was up there, I'd be saying, well, where don't I definitely want to live? And you're going to get wind corridors, you're going to get high spots, you're going to get low spots, and really there could be something fairly obvious about why you'd make a decision to live somewhere. So I would like to go that with that in mind and have a scout about. Taking a bit of a risk here, but I'm trying to trim down this back without having to literally push all of that weight off. You can sort of fast cast it off. Oops, that's the risk you take, but it's still not, it hasn't destroyed it, it's just reduced it a bit. And I reckon that that would be quite an exciting adventure. Anyway. Right, so that's helped out, it's thinned it down a bit at the back. Do you know, I've been posting on YouTube for about 9 or 10 years now, and got 50,000 subscribers, and I really appreciate your subscriptions, and I also appreciate your comments. I don't often get a chance to actually come and comment back, but I try and read them, and sometimes I get the chance and I sit there and do the likes. But nice one, thanks for hanging in and being part of the subscription group. If you do want to see a lot more of what I get up to, then Facebook is probably the place to go, or Instagram, either one of them. I'm not trying to encourage you to get on social media, but if you're on Facebook, YouTube, you're probably on it anyway. But there you go, back to this arrowhead then. So, quick tidy up of the back here. What I'm doing is I'm trying to straighten the line. Just out of interest, I've recently done a bit of television work. I had a celebrity in England come and stay with me for a week for his TV programme. He came and met me here, and then he moved off to the earth lodge that I'd built, and I gave him some things to do. Gave him a race on the river and some coracles and so forth. Nearer to the time when I know that that's coming out, I'll try and drop in again and make sure that I'll let you know about it. So if you can watch it. When I run workshops on flint knapping, one of the things I try and teach people is how to make an arrowhead. It generally takes about an hour for somebody to produce something like an arrowhead, because they're not used to all the pushing that you have to do. Once you get used to making them, you know, so like any well-trodden path, you can sort of, you know the shortcuts, you know what you're trying to make, and you can punch them out at a reasonable sort of speed, really. And I have a tendency to have flurries at things, so you never know. Over the next few weeks I might crop up quite a bit. I certainly want to introduce the new earth lodgers to you on here, so I'll get into that and show you what's going on, because that's an exciting development all by itself. Basically what I've done is I've built a giant molehill, but inside it's got a wooden structure. Just almost about there now with this. You can see it's slightly out, so I'm just tidy that up. And then we'll try notching it. Right, so for the love of it, I reckon we got our little shape. It's not too bad, right? And we're going to try jutting into the back. Now, it would be sensible just to sharpen this up a little bit. So I'm going to do that on a file. Yeah, I could hammer it between two rocks, but I've got a file, so I'm going to use it. There we go. Keep that pointed, and now we're going into here. That's the first bit. So now we can turn it over. Obviously you can't abrade in there because it's too far in and narrow. We press on them little flakes down there. And what I do, and sometimes you can do things without explaining, but when you're doing these notches, it's common to make a mistake where the barb flies off. So to try and reduce that, what I do is I take the flake out nearer to the tang bit in the middle, because that reduces, that's the hardest flake to take. That's the one where you put more pressure on. And then the second one, you don't have to push so hard, and that makes it a slightly safer journey as far as the arrowhead is concerned when you're notching on down into there. Ah! And there we go. You just have to accept things like that. If I was taking more care, then perhaps it wouldn't have happened. But I was just making a video dropping in because I wanted to say hi and let you know I'm still on the planet and I'm still happy and I'm still alright. I live outside. I actually live right where I'm sitting. See if I can show you. I've got half my structure. Got plenty of firewood in. That's where I cook. That's what I cook in. And life is good. But we're looking forward to more adventures on the road. Anyway, till then, all the best and thanks for watching.